Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, the saxophones are getting louder. It's happening again. If you guys are new to the channel, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. If you enjoy what you're seeing, if you're a new member, welcome. If you're a returning member, welcome back. Trying to hit 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and I can't do it without your help. So hit the subscribe button if you're enjoying what you're seeing. Let's get right back into the video. This weekend was a ridiculous weekend of football. I don't think many things in football shock me, but this weekend shocked me. I don't even know where to begin. Do we begin with Manchester City? Do you begin with Arsenal? Do you begin with Manchester City or do you begin with Arsenal? I'm going to begin with Manchester City. First place I want to begin. Now, I haven't talked about Manchester City for a while now. Last time I spoke about them, I made a video talking about whether Pep Guardiola was actually, has football caught up to Pep Guardiola. In the sense that I felt as though he was starting to move away from the things that really defined him as the manager that we've seen these last 10 years, 10, 15 years. And I think when you start to see him removing players that were doing good for him, playing good football, in a moment where Manchester City were really starting to grow in the season, I thought perhaps the game might have figured it out. At no point in that video did I say Pep Guardiola was washed, but I felt as though maybe the highest level of football wasn't where Pep Guardiola still is anymore. And he shut me up royally these past few weeks. The Carabao Cup final was a composed, mature performance from start to finish. It looked like a game from the old Manchester City where X-Factor players take their chances. Manchester City suffocate you. Manchester City dominate you from minute 1 to 90. Manchester City make it absolutely impossible for you to win the ball back. And Manchester City not only defeat you on the field physically, but they defeat you mentally. They defeat you mentally. Then from then, you move on to the Liverpool game. And of course, Liverpool have not been great this season. They haven't, far from it. But it's not easy to beat a team like Liverpool. Paris Saint-Germain, of course, they beat them, but it was only 2-0. Arsenal, the league leaders, the team who many people have said are the best team in the world this whole season, myself included, haven't beat Liverpool this season at all. And Manchester City made a statement in that game, booking their place in the FA Cup semi-finals, and pretty much, in my opinion, writing their name on the trophy. But these last few games have just shown you this is the Manchester City, and it's been through the reintroduction of a player that I don't really understand why Pep Guardiola was trying to phase out of the team, maybe due to the other side of his game who we'll come on to talk to. But today's performance against Chelsea, first half was a bit cagey. Things looked, I won't say all over the place. It was comfortable for Manchester City. They dominated the ball as you'd expect. They went away from home. They looked like a side who knew what was to play for. But the first half was definitely back and forth. It was a transitional game. Chelsea were posing a threat going the other way. Cole Palmer was starting to pick up good positions. João Pedro was running the defensive line ragged. Pedro Neto was supporting his fullback as well as Esteval on the other side. And it felt like one of those games, once again, that Manchester City was going to let that opportunity to catch Arsenal slip away again. But then they come out for the second half. And that looked like the Manchester City that I watched go away from home to Wolves. And this was when Wolves were a comfortable mid-table side. This was when Wolves were a difficult team to go away to. And Kevin De Bruyne scored 4 goals with his weaker foot. This is the same Manchester City performance that I've seen when they went away to the Goodison Park and they won 3-0 comfortably in the treble-winning season. This is the same Manchester City I would see go away from home to the likes of Newcastle, and Kevin De Bruyne gets those incredible goal and assist to win them all 3 points in a game that many people thought they would lose. This was reminiscent of one of those games. Comfortable, composed, mature, clinical. And for me, the player who represented that entirely today was Ryan Cherki. Ryan Cherki was a perfect illustration of Manchester City in this game. First half, things weren't really working out. His passes weren't really clicking. The flicks weren't really working. And he couldn't really make a mark in the game. Of course, he was there. He was trying. But things weren't really working out. And then you move into the second half, and it's like him and Manchester City clicked into that next gear. Pep Guardiola allowed his players to really find themselves. Jeremy Doku was a threat throughout. And Ryan Cherki really just took the game as his own, creating chance after chance. The lovely right-hand side dribble, gets past one, gets past two, plays a lovely cross into the box for Nico O'Reilly, who's really making a habit of crashing into the box late in this Manchester City side. And the fun doesn't stop there. The second assist, mamma mia. You see the run from the left to the right, past one, past two. You think he's going to move it to the right-hand side of the attack, and he just plays this lovely ball with the outside of his foot into Margehi. The entire defense shifting to one side, and he plays it going the other way. And it's an easy finish for Margehi. Honestly, it's an easy finish, and it's all down to the ingenuity of Ryan Cherky. And his ambipedal ability means that you can't really read which way this man is going to go. You don't know whether he's going to go left. You don't know whether he's going to go right. You don't know if he'll play with the inside of his foot or with the outside of his foot. Genuine genius of a footballer. And there's been many talks about would he be able to adapt to the league? Would he be able to, fight out in this physical league that the Premier League is? And sometimes when I listen to the way people speak about the Premier League, you would think it's more akin to the Royal Rumble rather than an actual footballing league. But Ryan Cherky, the saying, the cream rises to the top. Ryan Cherky is made from that ilk. And honestly, if this man continues to play at the level that he's playing for Man City for years to come, we thought we got away with one when Kevin De Bruyne left the league. Manchester City just found their replacements. And on Chelsea, I'm not even going to speak on Chelsea. I made a video on them in, January to February. When they sacked Enzo Maresca, their season was over. You're hiring a manager who doesn't really know what he's doing at the highest level just to appeal to the owners. These owners are absolutely clueless. The signings they make are absolutely rubbish. They don't make players that move the team forward. Everything kind of just seems like they're in limbo. Today, they're celebrating Man City beating them 3-0 in their own stadium because it means Arsenal might not win the league. Kind of just shows you the entire state of the football club in this very moment. Chelsea fans are sick of it. I'm pretty sure the players are sick of it. You see the sort of foolishness Enzo Fernandez is coming out with, Cucurella as well. Everybody at the club is kind of just disillusioned from the whole project that this board is trying to run. Chelsea, I said it then, if this club is not careful, they will fall back into irrelevancy. Because right now, you're looking at the table, I think they're now 5 points or 6 points behind Aston Villa, an Aston Villa team who are not that good. 4 points behind Liverpool, who are awful. If Chelsea don't make Champions League football, big sanctions will be put on this team. And really and truly, I don't know how they will be able to suffice, because it's not as though they have players in their team who have shown you that they will be able to grind it out when the club is under adversity. So I'm not going to really speak on Chelsea. But ultimately, what that victory for Manchester City meant today is the gap is 6 points. And it's 6 points with a game in hand. And Arsenal go to Manchester City next week. And that brings us on perfectly to the league leaders. I didn't think this would happen again. Genuinely, I did not think this would happen again. When I saw Arsenal were playing Bournemouth midweek, actually, let me rewind. I didn't make a video on the Carabao Cup final because I was busy. And by the time I was free to make a video, enough time had passed. I didn't think it was really necessary, right? The performance from Arsenal wasn't really something we haven't seen. Lack of real ingenuity, no real risk-taking, attacking players not really showing any world-class levels, and Arsenal just playing within themselves, right? Then they lost to Southampton in the FA Cup. And of course, it's a bad defeat. But the way I saw it was, you're rotating players. It's the FA Cup. You're away from home to Southampton. Southampton have been in good form. These things happen. But I think the biggest worry from those games wasn't just the results, but more the performances. We have known all season, Arsenal do not play good football. This is common knowledge. I don't think it's as bad as they only score set pieces and that's all they know how to do. But they're not playing entertaining football for me to get up out of my seat or to make time in my schedule. I've said this all before. Arsenal are not a team that I get excited to watch. If Arsenal is not playing against another good team, I'm not going to watch Arsenal. So the performances that they dropped in those games weren't really performances we haven't seen. But ultimately, at the end of the day, Arsenal's been able to get through. They've been able to win. They've been able to get set pieces. And they've been able to bide their time. And you felt as though, okay, when the big games come, you hope they start to hit that stride. Right now, when that was in January, when that was in November, when that was in February, it's okay if you're kind of just getting through. This is the pivotal end of the season. This is when your big players turn up. This is when legends are made. And right now, Arsenal look lost. Arsenal look lost. And it looks like a mental thing. Because then you move on to the game against Bournemouth. Now, I didn't watch the game against Bournemouth. I saw the highlights because the game was at 6:30 a.m. I love football. I'm good. When I tell you guys, I genuinely woke up. I think I woke up at about 9:30, something like that. Did my morning stuff, I had a shower, I didn't get up check my phone. Oh yeah, Arsenal played at 6:30. What was the score? And when I saw the scoreline, I was genuinely left mouth open. As I said, as I've said before, very few things shock me in football. I can always see an idea. I can see how something could lead to something. Very few things shock me in football. But it genuinely shocked me that Arsenal lost that game to Bournemouth. It genuinely shocked me when I saw that on my phone. And when I saw that, I was thinking, oh my goodness, they're actually doing it. Because when they got knocked out of the Carabao Cup, when they got knocked out of the FA Cup, I thought, you can see the ideas, you can see the reasons, you can see the excuses. I can see it. But ultimately, the bread and butter is the Premier League. Just win the Premier League. Because at the start of the season, if you told Arsenal fans we're just going to win the Premier League, they would have snatched your hand off. So just win the Premier League. And for you to then go and lose to Bournemouth the way they did. And the thing with Arsenal is, whenever they lose, it's not as though they played better than the opposition. The opposition got lucky, or the opposition just did a snatch and grab. Arsenal lose, and they deserve to lose every single time. Bournemouth have been in fantastic form. Huge credit to them. Huge credit to Andoni Iraola. But that performance from Arsenal was horrid. Horrid. I remember reading a stat that they only generated 0.1 open play goals XG in the entire game. Bear in mind, they created 2 XG, meaning they created over 1.8 XG from set pieces and the penalty that Gyökeres scored. From set pieces. This has to end. This has to end. And you watch Arsenal nowadays. Unfortunately, after I said I didn't watch the Sporting game, I went back to watch it and see what was the performance like. Lackadaisical. Lacking any real intensity, any real bite. Just there. Just nothing burger from Arsenal. But I felt they'll pick it back up for the Premier League. This is their bread and butter. This is what they really want. And then you drop that performance against Bournemouth. And it looked like a side. And the fans themselves too. Of course, a lot of Arsenal fans, if you've been listening to them, they've been saying this for a long time. I have a good Arsenal friend. He hasn't per se been saying that Arsenal will throw away the league, but he's been saying this football it's not sustainable. And of course, they'll defend their team. They'll say, oh, the football, it doesn't matter. We're winning. But I think it comes to a certain point where you really have to look at it and say, this football just isn't good enough. The same thing happened with Barcelona when we were with Xavi and Xavi won the league. Yes, we won the league, but everybody knew this football is not sustainable. This football is not sustainable. If you actually meet a proper good team, you are going to lose. And that's what happened to us that season, 22-23. We won La Liga, but we got knocked out in the group stage of the Champions League. Of course, it's not that bad with Arsenal, but you're looking at it now. This period of the season, you're playing Manchester City on the weekend. You're playing Sporting Lisbon midweek. And now you're looking at that fixture. Many people would have thought that's easy pickings for Arsenal. Is that really the case anymore? And then after that, you have to go to Manchester City. In a game, in my opinion, you have to go and win that game. Yes, you can draw it. A draw probably helps you, nevertheless. But I think you have to go into that game with the intention of winning. If Arsenal go into that game with the intention of putting 10 men behind the ball, you are going to lose that game. Either you lose that game or you draw that game and lose all ounce of respect with this fan base. All ounce of respect with this fan base. And we've come on this. Many people have said it time after time. These players lack this. These players lack that. These players lack X factor. The attacking players don't do this. The attacking players don't do that. But I think it's time we start looking at the manager, Mikel Arteta, in this situation. Obviously, it is not over. The title is still in Arsenal's hands. The same way it's in Manchester City's hands, but it's still in Arsenal's hands. Even though Arsenal have been much more consistent the whole season. And this is the qualms that everyone has with Arsenal. Man City have not been that good. Don't be deceived into believing this Manchester City team has been incredible and this side is going to be an incredible title winner. If Man City win this league title, it is as much to do with Arsenal throwing it away as it is with Manchester City winning it. So for Arsenal, they need to win that game at the Etihad. Because you look at someone like Mikel Arteta, this isn't the first time. This isn't the second time. This isn't the third time. And it prompts the question, how far can this team go with this manager? Because they're not going to win the Champions League. I'll tell you guys that now for a fact. As long as I've been saying Arsenal will win the Premier League, I've always been consistent. They are not going to win the Champions League. So the Premier League is all they're going to win if they do win the Premier League. If you do win that Premier League, Say you do or you don't. What happens to Mikel Arteta? Because I've heard some narrative with Arsenal fans saying, oh, once we win the league, the pressure's gone and then we can start playing football. I've never heard of anything like that in my life. You winning a trophy doesn't just fundamentally change a manager's whole ideology. It doesn't fundamentally change a manager's whole way of approaching football games. If anything, he might double down on that style of approach because he's won the Premier League playing that style of way. So for me, if they don't win the league, do you sack Mikel Arteta? Do you sack Mikel Arteta? And I'm not saying this to polarize fans or anything like that. I'm just asking the question. Because the same way I'm saying if you don't win the league, will you sack him? If you win the league, do you sack Mikel Arteta? Because in all my years watching this sport, I have never seen a team as comfortable as Arsenal in the league standings. I don't think Arsenal have been second since like September, maybe October. They've been first for a very long time in the league standings. I have never seen a team this comfortable in the league standings with this much criticism surrounding the club. Never. Even when Barcelona were under Xavi, I did not hear this much criticism. I did not. And I think the fans are getting fed up. I genuinely think they're fed up. But ultimately what this means is that game next week is do or die. And I will be there. Some of you might think I have an agenda against Arsenal. I low-key do because I don't like watching them. I don't think a team should win the Premier League just because teams around them are not doing well. Obviously, if you win it, you win it, right? Like if nobody's gonna compete with you, go ahead and win it, right? Nobody's stopping you. But I feel like sometimes you really have to go out there and win the league. Like even Liverpool last year, that people will say they kind of fell off towards the end. No one really challenged. Those first few months of Liverpool, they went out and got the league. Mohamed Salah drove them to that league title. It was only towards the end that they were kind of just messing about and they were just throwing away needless points. But for the majority of the season, they went out there and they got that league title. They went to the Etihad Stadium and they took over. They beat the likes of Manchester United. They beat the likes of Chelsea. They took those games as an opportunity to show we are the best team in the league. We are the best team in the league. Whereas with Arsenal, even the big games, you watch them and it feels like it's cagey. And right now, that's what it looks like. It looks like a team that's devoid of any real confidence. It looks like a team that feels as though those past traumas are starting to come back. And it looks like a manager who's really running out of ideas. Because even against Bournemouth, they went 1-0 down. You get the equalizer through a penalty, and they played the exact same way. They played the exact same way. You need to change something up. This physicality gimmick, this set piece FC, I don't think it's that bad. But this set piece FC, as some people like to call it, you have to tinker it. Pep Guardiola has tinkered. All the great managers that win league titles, they tinker throughout the season. Hansi Flick himself, I've watched him this season tinker. As much criticism as he's been under, I've watched him tinker. You have to tinker with the team. You have to find new motivation. You have to keep your opposition on your toes. Because I think what Manchester City did that day at Wembley was not only deprive Arsenal from winning the Premier League title, but I think it started to set doubts within themselves. Oh, maybe we are beatable. And I think it set a ripple effect throughout the league. These lot are not invincible. These lot are not invincible. They may be a good team. They may be the best in the league, albeit the league doesn't really have much great teams to offer, but they're not invincible. Don't get that twisted for a second. But as always, let me know what you guys think down in the comment section down below. What did you make from this weekend's fixtures? What did you think about Manchester City going out and beating Chelsea comfortably? What do you think about the Chelsea project in this moment in time? What do you think about Arsenal and their little wobble in the most important part of the season? Do you think they'll be able to hold out and win their first Premier League title in over 20 years? Or will Manchester City and Pep Guardiola have the final laugh? Of course, Tottenham also lost this weekend. If you guys have been following me on the socials, I've told you guys many times, these guys are relegated. When I saw them hire Roberto De Zerbi for a relegation battle, Championship 2026-2027, here we go. And last but not least, my beautiful Barcelona. Champions League, number 29. La Liga's coming. All eyes to the Wanda. We're not going to come back, but it's free to dream. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. Take care of yourselves, and goodbye.